What role do emojis play in written English? What's the difference between emojis and emoticons? What was the Oxford Dictionary's word of the year in 2015? Are emojis leading to a decline in the standard of English? Watch and decide. But first, if you're new here, do like, follow, subscribe to The English Nut on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. Thank you. Let's say you sent me a text message that went, "Would you like to join me for a cup of coffee?" And I replied, "Okay." You might wonder if I'm really keen on having coffee with you. Or am I agreeing to it merely because it would be rude to refuse? But if I added the smiling face with smiling eyes emoji after my okay, you would know that I actually want to have coffee with you. If I replied okay and added the heart eyes emoji, you would know that the invitation to join you for coffee made my day. More and more of our conversations in the modern world take place through text messages. While this may be a convenient way to communicate, it has its shortcomings. It's devoid of the facial expressions, bodily gestures, and tone of voice that add so much nuance to what we convey to each other in an in-person conversation. If I was standing opposite you and you asked me to have coffee with you and I said okay, you would notice whether my expression was neutral, okay, happy, okay, or excited, okay. From that you would get a much better understanding of how keen I am to have coffee with you. This makes one realize how much of our face-to-face communication is non-verbal, and therefore the important role emojis play as a substitute for the non-verbal part of our communication when using text messages. In fact, the growing importance of emojis was highlighted when in 2015 the Oxford Dictionary chose the face with tears of joy emoji as its word of the year. The fact that for the first time ever a pictograph was chosen for the honor was telling. Given that emojis are used billions of times every day, I suppose that sooner or later such recognition was inevitable. The face with tears of joy is one of the most frequently used emojis. It can even be used as a standalone word when, for example, you're responding to a humorous text message. So it's an example of an emoji going beyond qualifying other words and becoming a unit of communication in itself. But of course, it also plays a critical role as a qualifier of your written words to prevent misinterpretation. Let's say that your friend knows you watched a particular art film last night and would like to know whether it's worth watching. So she texts you, "How was the movie?" Now the reality is that you couldn't make head or tail of the film, and so jokingly you reply, "It's so deep, I've got to watch it again." If your friend takes this statement literally, she might think you found the film profound and therefore decide to watch it too. But if you wrote the sentence as "It's so deep, I've got to watch it again," followed by the face with tears of joy emoji, then your friend would know that you're being sarcastic and actually did not get the film at all. She would conclude that it might be better not to waste her time on it. Unless, of course, she's the sort who revels in abstruse art cinema. The number of emojis is growing all the time, and they've gone beyond pictographs that merely represent expressions and gestures. Many of them are pictures of objects, allowing you to convey a word without typing it out. For example, you could use the hot beverage emoji followed by a question mark to ask someone if he or she would like to have coffee with you. Of course, this could mean tea as well, but that's easily clarified. Emojis were invented in 1999 by Shigetaka Kurita, inspired by Japanese manga art and Chinese characters. The word emoji comes from Japanese. It's made up of three characters, E, Mo, and G, which roughly translate to drawn language character. Interestingly, the Chinese characters used to write Japanese still retain a hint of the pictorial representation of real-world objects that they are based on. Emojis are not the only modern-day hieroglyphs. There are emoticons as well. Emoticons, which predate emojis, are made up of punctuation marks, letters, and numbers. They're generally used to display an emotion or sentiment. This sense is embedded in the word itself. emoticon being a portmanteau of emotion and icon. Emoticons are far more minimalistic than emojis, and because of the way they're created, usually need to be read sideways. They were popularized after an incident at Carnegie Mellon University, USA in 1982. As a joke, someone had posted a message online about a fake mercury spill. This was not decoded as a joke, however, and created real alarm on campus. To prevent a misunderstanding like that from happening again, computer scientist and professor Dr. Scott Fahlman suggested that jokes and non-jokes be distinguished with two sets of characters, which we now know as the smiley face and the frowning face. From there on, the use of emoticons took off among internet users. Coming back to the far more elaborate emoji, while its appearance may vary based on the brand of phone or laptop you use, its underlying code is identical across platforms, which is why the clapping hand sign emoji you might choose to appreciate this video with may look different on your device from the way it does on mine. But beneath the skin, they're identical. There are those who believe that emojis are lowering the standards of English and other languages, particularly among the young. They say that the option of being able to use pictures instead of words to communicate has led to a decline in the ability to spell and to write grammatically correct sentences. Where are emojis headed? Written language started with pictures and symbols scratched onto rocks. And with the rise of emojis, our written communication consists increasingly of stylized pictures and icons displayed on screens. Sometimes you can even write an entire sentence with them. In the future, I wonder if we'll write our messages exclusively with emojis. If so, the English nut will become redundant. Whichever way it goes, one has to be careful about using certain emojis such as the winking face. You might send it to someone to convey that you're joking, but the recipient may interpret it as flirting. So particularly when texting someone with whom you have a formal relationship, such as a colleague, use emojis judiciously. Do you think that emojis are leading to the deterioration of written English, or perhaps completely destroying it? Or should we give our young people more credit than that? Do write your point of view in the comments section, with or without the use of emojis. I'm the English Nut. Bye for now.